My wife created a viral fixing my pathetic husband TikTok series without my consent while demanding I fund her influencer career. So I orchestrated my grand disappearing husband, vanishing bank account series finale that she never saw coming. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. So for context, I'm 32, work as a lead mechanical engineer at a manufacturing plant. Been busting my ass for the last decade to get where I am. Started off changing oil at a garage while putting myself through engineering school. No handouts, no rich parents, just pure grind, 70+ hour weeks, and constantly being the guy who volunteered for overtime. 6 figures now, decent 401k, put down cash for a nice house in the suburbs 2 years ago. Sarah and I met at a friend's BBQ 4 years ago. She was hot, like way above my league hot, working as a part-time yoga instructor and lifestyle consultant, whatever TF that means. We hit it off, got married after dating for 8 months. Yeah, I know, too quick. First year was amazing, constant sex. She seemed super supportive of my career. We traveled a bit. Then things started changing. She quit working entirely to focus on building her brand, but mostly just spent my money on designer shit and complained about our starter home that I'd saved 7 years for. Anyway, I'm sitting at my desk on a normal Tuesday, grinding away at technical specs for a new production line when my phone buzzes. It's a text from Jake, this dude I've known since high school who works in our IT department. Hey man, have you seen what Sarah's been posting about you? There's this TikTok thing going viral. Not trying to stir shit, but you should probably see this. I nearly ignored it TBH. I'm not a social media guy, like at all. Facebook once a month maybe to check if anyone died or got married. Reddit for sports and hobby stuff. But something about his message felt off. Why would Sarah be posting about me? So I clicked the link, thinking maybe she shared some dumb pic of me falling asleep with our cat or whatever. The video loads, and there she is, sitting in our living room, on our couch that we picked out together at AITA, after arguing for like 3 hours about leather versus fabric. Welcome to day 1 of Fix My Husband. Her voice was different. Not the voice she used this morning when she kissed me goodbye. This was her talking to her girlfriends about some dumbass thing a guy did voice. My stomach straight up dropped into my shoes when I realized what I was looking at. The video cut to footage of me in our kitchen, dumping dishes in the sink instead of the dishwasher. I had zero idea I was being filmed. Zero. Then back to her, smirking at the camera. Seriously, it's like living with a child. 300,000 views. Over 300,000 people had watched my wife mock me. And it wasn't just one video. There were dozens. Day 17. He thinks watching sports all weekend is acceptable. Day 23. Let's discuss his questionable hygiene habits. The comment section made me physically nauseous. Thousands of strangers weighing in. Girl, you need to throw the whole man away. This is why I'm staying single lol. Wait, doesn't he work at Palmer Technologies? I thought he seemed familiar. My private life, my fucking life, had become entertainment without me knowing. 3 years of what I thought was a partnership built on respect, just gone. In an instant. And here's the real gut punch. I'm the one who paid for everything. The house where she was filming. The phone she was using. The designer clothes she was wearing while mocking me. The fucking couch she was sitting on. All paid for by my 60+ hour work weeks while she built her brand. That first night was probably the hardest. More texts started coming in from people I knew. Co-workers, friends. My brother called from Denver. Dude, my wife just showed me these videos. What the actual fuck? Even my boss sent this awkward message. Hope everything's okay at home. Let me know if you need to talk. Great. So now the guys I manage have probably seen my wife treating me like a trained monkey. I had to get out of the house for a bit, so I went for a drive. Just me and my thoughts and the absolute hurricane in my head. Every conversation we'd had recently suddenly made sense in this horrifying new context. All those times she'd been just scrolling on her phone late at night. All those moments when she seemed to be recording something, and I thought she was just taking pics of the house or whatever. My first instinct was pure rage. To storm back home and confront her. Demand she take down every video. Scream until my throat was raw. But then I realized that's exactly what she would want. Another emotional reaction to capture and share with her newfound audience. Another chapter in her viral story. So instead, I did something that surprised even me. I took a deep breath, drove back home, and decided to play dumb. Completely oblivious. If she wanted to turn our marriage into content, I would give her a finale she'd never forget. When I got back, she was upstairs in our bedroom. I could hear her voice, that same fake voice, probably filming another installment. I went to my office, locked the door, and began planning my exit strategy. See, the thing is, I'm not actually the clueless idiot she portrays me as. And by the time she realized that, it would be way too late to fix anything. Not her marriage, and definitely not her precious online persona. For the next week, I became a ghost in my own home. Every morning, I'd check her TikTok profile before she woke up. Her follower count was climbing by the thousands. Fix my husband had become her whole identity, her obsession, and I had become nothing but content. Day 27. Teaching him basic laundry skills because apparently separating whites and colors is rocket science. The comments were always the same. Girl, you're not his mother, and this is why I make my man do everything himself. Each vid was getting like 500,000 views now. But what really got to me wasn't just the betrayal. It was how different she was on camera. This wasn't the woman who cuddled with me on the couch or kissed me goodnight. On TikTok, she was animated, exasperated, with all these practiced expressions and dramatic pauses. A complete performance. At home, she maintained this insane illusion that everything was normal. Occasionally, she'd mention her growing social media presence, like it was some casual hobby and not the systematic destruction of my dignity. I played along, creating my own performance as the oblivious husband, nodding absently when she talked, pretending to be absorbed in work emails while actually documenting everything. During lunch breaks, I consulted with a divorce attorney, this badass woman named Stephanie, who specializes in high-conflict divorces. The consultation cost me $400, but was worth every penny. She looked at the videos and was like, holy shit, this is the most clear-cut case of public humiliation I've seen in years. Given the public nature of her content and your lack of consent, you have considerable leverage. Document everything. Don't confront her yet. I also grabbed coffee with my buddy Eric, who went through a nasty divorce last year. Dude, you need to protect your assets now. She's already showing she doesn't respect you. It'll get worse. That afternoon, I moved most of our savings, $127,000, to a separate account, keeping $8,000 in the joint one to avoid suspicion. Secured important documents including the deed to my grandfather's classic Mustang that she'd been trying to get me to sell, and started looking for a new place. Found a high-rise apartment downtown, $2,800 a month but worth it for security and distance. Each step was calculated, invisible to her increasingly distracted eye, while she was busy picking out what outfit would get her the most likes. The strangest part was watching her experiment with her newfound influence. One day she bought me new clothes, insisting I wear them, filming my reactions without my knowledge. When I put them on without complaining, I caught this flash of disappointment on her face. My compliance wasn't generating the drama she wanted for her content. That evening, I overheard her on the phone with her friend. The series is blowing up. A brand reached out about sponsorship. Her voice dropped lower, but I could still hear. I know, but he hasn't noticed yet. It's almost disappointing how clueless he is. I closed my eyes and just let that sink in. This wasn't just about humiliation anymore. I was living with someone who had created a completely fictional narrative about our marriage and who I was as a person. Someone who valued validation from strangers over the relationship we'd built together over 3 years. By week 6, Fix My Husband had evolved from casual mockery to something way more twisted. Our home had basically transformed into a reality show set where I was both the unwitting star and the project needing rehabilitation. Today we're starting the chore chart system you all recommended. She'd installed this massive whiteboard in our kitchen, complete with gold star stickers like for kindergartners. Every completed task earns a star, and at the end of the week, if he's earned enough stars, he gets a reward. Her tone was so condescending, like she was talking to a toddler. The comments section went wild. This is literally how I train my dog. Start with small rewards and work your way up. It was completely surreal watching thousands of strangers discuss the most effective methods to condition my behavior, like I was some kind of lab animal. Meanwhile, I maintained my facade of obliviousness, dutifully collecting gold stars while advancing my exit strategy. I'd secured a furnished apartment across town, paid 3 months in advance under an LLC I'd set up through my attorney. I'd redirected important mail to a P.O. box, and slowly moved irreplaceable personal items to a storage unit. At work, I requested a transfer to our Boston office, citing personal reasons. My boss, who'd obviously seen the TikToks, approved it immediately. Sometimes a fresh start is necessary, was all he said. While my wife crafted her narrative of gradual improvement, I crafted a counter-narrative of subtle changes. I joined a gym, Not because her videos had mocked my physique, but because physical exercise helped manage my growing anger. I updated my wardrobe, not in response to her fashion critiques, but to prepare for my new professional chapter. The most strategic move was allowing her to believe her training was working. I'd place dishes directly in the dishwasher, complete items on her chore chart, and respond to her condescending praise with mild appreciation. "Thanks for helping me get better at this," I'd say, watching her eyes light up with content potential rather than genuine connection. One evening, she approached me with unusual warmth. "I've been thinking," she began, sitting beside me on the couch. "The series has been really successful." She placed her hand on mine, a gesture that once would have felt intimate, but now felt calculated. "Some of my followers have suggested a couple's Q&A, to show how much progress we've made." There it was, the inevitable escalation. She wanted me to participate directly in my own public rehabilitation. To validate her narrative by appearing on camera as the grateful project, the successfully molded husband. I measured my response carefully. Direct refusal would trigger suspicion. Enthusiastic agreement would commit me to something I had no intention of fulfilling. I chose measured reluctance. "I'm not really comfortable on camera," I said, allowing a hint of genuine discomfort to show. "You know I'm more private than you." She squeezed my hand, already shifting to persuasion mode. "But that's part of what makes it perfect. Your journey from being camera shy to opening up. Think about how many relationships we could help." The audacity was almost impressive, reframing her public ridicule as altruistic relationship advice, painting herself as some relationship guru rather than someone systematically destroying trust. "Let me think about it," I replied, knowing she'd see hesitation as an opening for further persuasion rather than the delaying tactic it actually was. Later that night, I overheard her on a video call with her sister. "He's coming around. The Q&A will be the perfect finale before I launch the product line. Fix your husband home kits, chore charts, reward systems in the works." So that was the endgame. Not just validation or entertainment, but merchandising my supposed inadequacies. Turning our marriage into not just content, but commerce. I checked my calendar. 2 more weeks until my transfer officially began. 2 more weeks of playing the malleable husband while systematically erasing my presence from our shared life. 10 days before my planned exit, I initiated the next phase, planting seeds of doubt in her carefully constructed narrative. Not confrontation, strategic disruption. I started by breaking the pattern of predictable compliance she'd come to expect. When she filmed me completing a chore from her chart, expecting the usual docile performance, I looked directly at the camera instead of pretending not to notice. Just for a split second, long enough for her to catch it, brief enough to seem accidental. Her editing couldn't quite hide that momentary crack in her controlled environment. Comments immediately picked up on it. "Wait, does he know he's being recorded?" "That look straight into the camera was intense." The first hairline fracture in her facade had appeared. Next came calculated inconsistency. I'd excel at certain tasks while completely forgetting others, creating an unpredictable pattern she couldn't easily explain to her audience. Her content thrived on a clear narrative arc, the gradual improvement of her project husband. By introducing erratic progress, I was undermining the story she was selling. "I don't understand," I overheard her telling a friend on the phone. "The reward system was working perfectly, but now it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back." The frustration in her voice was unmistakable. Her carefully planned content schedule was being disrupted by variables she couldn't control. During dinner one evening, I broached a seemingly innocent question. "Have you ever thought about what makes content creators eventually burn out?" She looked up from her phone, where she'd been monitoring her latest video's engagement. "What do you mean?" "I was reading an article about it today," I continued casually. "How the pressure to constantly produce engaging content leads to a sort of creative exhaustion, especially when creators build their brand around a particular narrative or persona that becomes increasingly difficult to maintain." I watched uncertainty flicker across her face. "That's not really relevant to what I'm doing. My content is authentic, not some fake persona." "Of course," I nodded, returning to my meal. I just found it interesting how quickly audiences can turn when they sense a narrative isn't genuine anymore. How a creator can become trapped by their own success. The seed was planted. I noticed her checking her comments more frequently that evening, scrolling with furrowed brows. The following week, she announced her special milestone video. "We've reached 1 million followers. For this special episode, I want to show everyone how far we've come." She prepared an elaborate script, comparing before clips with current footage to showcase her successful husband rehabilitation project. She'd even bought matching outfits for us to wear during the finale segment, a visual symbol of our supposed harmony and her triumph as a relationship engineer. I thought we could film the final segment this weekend, she explained, barely containing her excitement. Just us together, talking about the journey. How much better things are now that you've learned proper household management. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Her desire for my direct participation in validating her narrative. The perfect opportunity to introduce the final element of uncertainty before my disappearance. I'll need to check my schedule, I replied, non-committal. Work has been intense lately. But this is important, she insisted, the edge in her voice betraying how crucial this was to her content strategy. We've been building to this. I understand, I said, maintaining calm neutrality. Let me see what I can move around. That night, I overheard her recording a teaser for the milestone video. You guys have been asking to see more of him, and I promise the wait will be worth it. The transformation is amazing. Little did she know she was promoting a finale that would never exist, at least not in the form she imagined. 2 days later, she found me packing a suitcase in our bedroom. The moment was perfectly timed to align with her filming schedule for the milestone video. What are you doing? She asked, phone instinctively raised to capture what she likely assumed was another domestic disagreement to mine for content. I have a conference in Chicago, I replied smoothly. I mentioned it last week, remember? I'll be gone through the weekend. The panic in her eyes was unmistakable. Her milestone video, the culmination of her series, now jeopardized by my inconvenient absence. You can't! We have the filming scheduled. 1 million followers are expecting this. I looked at her with perfect innocence. I didn't realize your video took priority over my career obligations. We can film when I get back, can't we? As I closed my suitcase with calm finality, I knew she was facing a creator's worst nightmare, a content crisis with no easy solution. The husband she thought she'd successfully molded was suddenly operating outside her carefully constructed narrative. My business trip to Chicago was entirely made up, a strategic move that gave me 3 uninterrupted days to finalize my escape, while my wife scrambled to salvage her content schedule. I wasn't in Chicago, just at a hotel downtown, 30 minutes from our home, far enough that she couldn't verify my whereabouts, close enough to monitor the unraveling of her narrative. Her texts oscillated between passive-aggressive disappointment about the delayed milestone video and forced casualness attempting to extract my exact return date. I responded sporadically with calculated vagueness. Conference running long. We'll update when I can. Every delayed response, every ambiguous message was another small fracture in her sense of control. Meanwhile, her TikTok content had begun to shift. Without fresh material of her improvement project, me, she was forced to recycle old footage and fill with rambling updates about the special episode coming soon. Her followers noticed the change in quality immediately. Is it just me, or has the series lost its momentum? Where's the husband? We haven't seen new footage in days. The parasocial relationship she'd cultivated with her audience was showing its first signs of strain. From my hotel room, I monitored her increasingly desperate attempts to maintain engagement. She posted behind-the-scenes content that revealed more than she likely intended. The elaborate staging of what she presented as spontaneous moments, scripted reactions she'd rehearsed, even a glimpse of the training schedule she'd created to ensure optimal content generation from our marriage. Her loyal followers began to question the authenticity they'd previously consumed without scrutiny. The carefully constructed illusion of a well-intentioned wife helping her hopeless husband was developing noticeable cracks. On day 3 of my business trip, I placed a calculated phone call during her peak filming hours, when I knew she'd be recording content for her increasingly impatient audience. The company's offering me an extended assignment, I told her, injecting genuine-sounding enthusiasm into my voice. They're impressed with my work this weekend. Extended? How extended? The alarm in her voice was unmistakable. Behind her words, I could hear the mental calculations. Content schedules disrupted, sponsored post delayed, milestone video indefinitely postponed. Potentially 2 weeks, I replied. It's a significant opportunity, hard to turn down. Her response was immediate and revealing. But what about the content we planned? I mean, what about our plans together? The mask had slipped. Content before connection. Views before partnership. The facade of caring about my professional growth couldn't compete with her panic over content disruption. I thought you'd be happy for me, I said, allowing disappointment to color my tone. This could be a big step forward. Of course I am. It's just, the timing is complicated. I have commitments too. To your followers? I asked innocently. The silence that followed was deafening and damning. She had no ready defense that wouldn't expose the transactional nature of what our marriage had become. That evening, she posted a surprisingly vulnerable update to her TikTok. No clever edits, no background music, no rehearsed expressions. Hey everyone, just wanted to be transparent. The milestone video is delayed because my husband is away for work. It's been challenging to create content without him here. The comments section exploded with unexpected perspective. Wait, so the whole series depends on him being available to be fixed? Maybe the husband deserves a break from being content. The audience she'd cultivated to validate her narrative was developing minds of their own. On what was supposed to be my return date, I sent one final text. Assignment extended again. Great opportunity, can't pass up. Will call when I can. Then I silenced notifications from her number. My buddy Jake from IT had been helping me monitor her accounts. He's a real MVP through all this shit. Dude, she's absolutely melting down, he texted me. Posting like 7 to 8 times a day, engagement dropping like crazy. In this brief window before I executed the final phase of my plan, I watched her social media presence fracture further. She vacillated between defensive responses to increasingly skeptical followers and desperate attempts to pivot her content strategy away from the husband improvement theme that had defined her online identity. Taking a short break to refocus the channel was how she described it to her audience. But according to Jake, her engagement metrics were already in freefall. The content ecosystem she'd built around my supposed inadequacies was collapsing without its central subject. Meanwhile, I got an unexpected boost. My attorney Stephanie introduced me to her brother, who runs a men's support group for guys dealing with narcissistic partners. Listening to other dudes who'd been through similar shit strengthened my resolve. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't crazy. These guys helped me realize I deserved better than being someone's content farm. The morning of my final disappearance began with methodical precision. Every element had been arranged for maximum impact, not just on my wife, but on the audience she'd cultivated at my expense. I'd invested $3,000 in professional help for this. Media consultants, a videographer, even a fucking data analyst to maximize the destruction of her fake persona. I began by activating my dormant social media accounts. For years, I'd maintained minimal online presence, something my wife had actually mocked in her videos. He doesn't understand the power of social media. He's so behind the times, LOL. But that digital absence had created the perfect blank canvas for what would come next. At precisely 9 a.m., when her follower engagement peaked according to the analytics Jake had pulled for me, I posted simultaneously across all platforms. I even paid for some targeted ads to make sure her followers would see it. No dramatic declarations, no emotional outbursts, just calm, irrefutable evidence. For those wondering why I've been absent from my wife's Fix My Husband TikTok series, a series I never consented to being part of, here's the unedited reality behind the carefully crafted fiction you've been watching. I'm the guy who actually pays the bills while being secretly recorded and humiliated for clicks. Accompanying my statement, screenshots of text conversations where she discussed using our marriage as content without my knowledge. Footage I'd secretly recorded of her staging spontaneous moments. The detailed content calendar she'd created, scheduling my supposed failures weeks in advance. The sponsorship contracts explicitly monetizing my alleged shortcomings. I included clips of her admitting to friends that many of my problems were exaggerated or manufactured entirely for viewer engagement. The smoking gun. Her spreadsheet tracking which types of husband-shaming content generated the highest views and engagement metrics. My post continued. I discovered these videos exactly as all of you did, by being tagged in them without my knowledge or consent. For 7 weeks, I've watched my privacy invaded, my character systematically dismantled, and my marriage commodified for the entertainment of strangers. Today marks the end of my participation in this narrative. Within minutes, the evidence began circulating beyond my modest follower count. Her dedicated viewers, feeling betrayed by the manufactured authenticity they'd consumed, became the primary amplifiers of my revelation. The audience she'd cultivated to validate her narrative now fueled its destruction. Her response was predictable: frantic damage control. First came the attempts to contact me. Calls, texts, voicemails, escalating from confusion to anger to panic when those went unanswered. She turned to the platform that had become her refuge. Guys, my account has been hacked. Don't believe what's being posted. But the evidence was too comprehensive, too damning. Her followers weren't accepting the hacking excuse. Comments flooded in. We've been lied to this whole time. So she was gaslighting him and us. I shared these videos with my husband thinking they were real. I feel sick. By midday, the story had spread beyond her audience. Commentary videos analyzing the ethics of relationship content were trending. Creator accountability became the hashtag of the hour. Her carefully constructed persona as a relatable wife, helping her hapless husband, had completely collapsed, replaced by a new narrative. Content creator exploits unsuspecting spouse for views. Meanwhile, I was executing the final phase of my physical departure. But this is where I took it to the next level. The moving company arrived at our home precisely when she was streaming a tearful, increasingly desperate response video, attempting to salvage her reputation. But it wasn't just any movers. I'd paid extra for the full inventory package. See, my attorney had helped me document every single item in that house, with receipts showing I'd paid for about 90% of everything. The movers had instructions to take everything I'd paid for. The sectional couch, the 85-inch TV, the Peloton she loved but used twice, the $3,000 espresso machine she needed, the refrigerator, even the fucking curtains. All of it. Everything except her personal clothes and the cheap IKEA furniture she'd brought to the relationship. The divorce papers were served simultaneously by a process server who recorded the whole thing, legal in our state. The timing meticulously coordinated for when she would be surrounded by the physical evidence of my permanent exit, while still grappling with the digital fallout of her exposed deception. To top it off, I'd arranged for the utilities to be transferred out of my name that same day. By evening, she was sitting in a half-empty house with no internet, no heat, and no husband to film. The comments on her damage control videos had become a case study in audience revolt. This isn't about your marriage anymore. It's about how you manipulated us, and the real person who needed fixing wasn't your husband. And he paid for everything in your videos, and this is how you treated him? You're disgusting. I watched all this unfold from the quiet of my new beginning 2,000 miles away. I'd transferred to our Seattle office with a $15,000 relocation bonus and a nice raise. No dramatic confrontation, no heated arguments providing her with fresh content opportunities, just the systematic dismantling of the false narrative she'd constructed, leaving her alone in an empty house with the consequences of her choices. The sponsors began pulling out overnight. Her follower count dropped precipitously. The Fix Your Husband product line she'd been developing was canceled by the manufacturer, citing ethical concerns about the foundation of the brand. 1 week later, after the digital dust had begun to settle, I posted once more with a video tour of my new apartment overlooking Puget Sound. Privacy isn't just about what's legally permissible to share. It's about respect. Trust isn't just the foundation of marriage. It's the foundation of authentic connection. I'm beginning again with these principles intact, wiser for having learned their value through their absence. And gentlemen, know your worth. The response was overwhelmingly supportive. I found myself getting thousands of messages from guys who'd been through similar shit. Former viewers of her content reached out with apologies for their participation in what many now recognized as public humiliation disguised as entertainment. My video went viral, over 3 million views. Several major platforms updated their creator guidelines regarding consent and relationship content. As for Sarah, she completely unraveled. First came the desperate damage control. It's all being taken out of context. Then the tearful apologies. I made a terrible mistake. I'm so sorry. Then the threats. I'll sue you for abandonment. When none of that worked, the begging started. The calls, the texts. Please come back. The mortgage is due and I can't pay it. They're threatening to repossess my car. Brands are dropping me because of what you posted. Your brother won't even talk to me. Her sister Jess even reached out. You've made your point. Sarah's learned her lesson. It's time to be a man and fix this. My favorite message came 3 weeks in. If you take down your video and help me rebuild my brand, I'll give you another chance. She actually thought she was in the position to give me another chance. The delusion was almost impressive. After a month of ignoring her, I had my attorney send a single response. Any further contact will be considered harassment and dealt with accordingly. The divorce will proceed as filed. When she realized I wasn't coming back, she tried to pivot to being a personal growth influencer, documenting her journey of self-reflection. But the internet never forgets, and her new content flopped hard. Last I heard from Jake and IT, she'd moved back in with her parents at 33 and was trying to date some local real estate guy who didn't know her history. My disappearance wasn't an emotional reaction to being hurt. It was the logical conclusion to a partnership that had been sacrificed at the altar of content creation and external validation. The husband who supposedly needed fixing had revealed himself to be whole all along, capable of strategic thinking, emotional discipline, and self-respect that no amount of gold star stickers or public shaming could possibly improve. The Fix My Husband series had indeed reached its finale, just not the one she'd scripted in her quest to create compelling content from our marriage. She failed to notice that the real story was the systematic disappearance of the man she thought needed fixing. Update. Thanks for all the awards and messages, guys. Didn't expect this to blow up like it did. For those asking, yes, I'm doing way better now. Started therapy, got a dog, joined a mountain biking group here in Seattle. The divorce is almost finalized. She tried to claim emotional distress, but my attorney laughed it out of court with the TikTok videos as evidence. No, I haven't given her another chance. Some bridges stay burned. Yes, she really did try to get me fired by contacting my new office. Fortunately, my boss had seen the videos and told her to pound sand. For the guys asking for advice, document everything, get a ruthless attorney, and remember that your self-respect isn't negotiable. For those asking about my finances, yes, I took a short-term hit with the house and lawyer fees, but my investments are intact and I'm rebuilding quickly. Final update. A few people asked if I regret how I handled things, or if I think I was too harsh. Honestly, when someone systematically humiliates you for profit while pretending to love you, they forfeit the right to a gentle goodbye. Sometimes the only way to deal with toxic people is to completely remove yourself from their universe. My only regret is not doing it sooner.